What's up, guys? I know with the Braves getting eliminated and the World Series being the Phillies and Astros, there isn't too much baseball content we can do until Friday if I decide to do that, but I thought I'd come on here and talk about the managerial roundtable of the Marlins just hired Skip Schumacher, a beloved Cardinal, big-time infielder, utility guy in their World Series runs, has been a bench coach with the Cardinals and the Padres. Recently got tabbed as the Miami Marlins manager. It is definitely an interesting choice. I'm not familiar with his philosophies or anything of that nature, but I do know he has great baseball mind and great baseball instincts, so this should be interesting to follow, especially being in the NL East. My favorite hire probably is Bruce Bochy for the Texas Rangers, who went out last offseason and spent $500,000 on Marcus Semien, John Gray, and Corey Seager. Didn't really pan out necessarily because their pitching is still in flux, but Bruce Bochy is a pitching maestro, as we saw with him in San Francisco, the golden years, those 3 World Series championships. Bruce Bochy is a baseball lifer, so I'm not surprised that he's back, but I definitely wouldn't have guessed it. But I really like it given their roster construction and things of that nature. Rob Thompson, obviously, the magical World Series run, got the interim tag taken off in a 2-year contract. Really well deserved for what he's been able to do with that Phillies roster and that Phillies team, galvanizing them and getting them together and going through this magical run. So congratulations there. I really like that. John Snyder, pretty much the same thing for the Toronto Blue Jays, getting a 3-year deal after taking over for Charlie Montoyo and them reaching the playoffs. Unfortunately, they can't get over that hump of winning a playoff series and having a deep run, but I like what John Snyder brought to the Toronto Blue Jays. So taking that interim tag off 3-year contract makes a lot of sense to me. Again, he galvanized the boys together and started playing winning baseball like everybody expected. Their pitching, again, is a little in flux, as it typically happens. It's usually a pitching that kind of holds you back. And I think that was a little bit their Achilles heel. But I think John Snyder is really good for that job. And then you've got the one that I'm really skeptical about and really unsure is Phil Nevin getting a 1-year deal. I thought they would just completely do a clean slate with Perry Minasian. And I know the Angels are in the process of selling the team, so I figured they would do a complete clean slate because it didn't really get any better with Phil Nevin. It honestly got worse and really, really gross to watch from the outside, and I'm pretty sure from the inside even worse. But good for him to get a start from the beginning and see what that does. Obviously, they have a lot of questions in the offseason with Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and obviously their pitching is in an unexplainable mess kind of right now. So I don't know that it's a desirable situation for Phil Nevin, but getting to start from the beginning may help the philosophy and things of that nature, but that one's the most skeptical for me. Obviously, the White Sox have an opening. Braves third base coach Ron Washington has been mentioned as a possible replacement, and I am actually surprised that the Braves have been able to keep the core together for as long as we have. I'm really excited about it. Ozzie again has been mentioned, and going from Tony La Russa back to Aussie again. That seems like a very, very weird and interesting proposition. The White Sox are an interesting one because they really haven't been able to get over the 500 mark hump. With Tony La Russa, he was able to do it in the 2020 COVID shortened season, but it just became a really weird comedy show at times with Tony La Russa. So we'll see what direction they go. That should be interesting. They have a lot of talent still, obviously, but some injury prones and a lot of unanswered questions with that roster. So it should be, that's an interesting one to follow on the south side there. And then lastly, I really haven't heard anything about this. The Kansas City Royals are looking for somebody. And that honestly might be one of the more attractive ones with Bobby Witt Jr. And some young core pieces. Drew Waters showed out pretty well, so he should get a shot. You got a lot of good foundational young pieces there. I just don't know if you have enough veteran. Plus, I don't necessarily know their contract situations at all. But Kansas City is a great baseball town, and they've got some juice with some young players. So that's kind of a really attractive place, and I'll be interested to see what kind of direction they go. Grizzled veteran or young, upcoming, upstart manager type. So we'll see how that goes. But that is your up-to-minute new managerial roundtable, and I am surprised that Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman are going to be retained by the Yankees, but their roster, there's so many questions, and their philosophy is pretty strange and directionless right now, almost, in my opinion. I don't know. I respect Aaron Boone and I respect Brian Cashman, but I think they really need to get younger. Obviously, the Aaron Judge situation and stuck with that Josh Donaldson contract, but they're going to run it back in New York with those two at the helm, so it should be another interesting watch, and obviously it's going to be a very, very interesting offseason, but there's a lot of managerial decisions that I've liked so far, and some that are going to be an interesting watch, but I figured this would be a good time to do it because I always want to do a video no matter what it's about. But have a good night, guys. As always, go Braves, champions forever, and I will have your offseason covered from beginning to end and everything in between. Have a good night.